Welcome to the Dream Show. Here with Morgan, and we're going to share what my dream is, which is to volunteer and then to go on a service trip this year.
Welcome to the Dream Show, Pete.
I'm really glad to be here with you.
So you already introed it a little bit, but reiterate one more time with a little bit more detail what exactly your dream is.
Sure. So my dream over the course of the next year is to start volunteering 3 to 4 times a month at either the Children's Hospital or the Boys and Girls Club up in LA. And then I'd also like to pair that with an international service trip to kind of give it a little broader picture. But that's kind of my overall dream over the course of the next year.
Why LA? If you work in Orange
I
County.
live in Los Angeles, for those of you that don't know. I live in a little area called Silver Lake, just the other side of Dodger Stadium. And there's some great programs up there. Lots of kids, either at the Children's Hospital or the Boys and Girls Club, that I hope to kind of pour back some time into. And then couple that with a little bit bigger service trip to kind of complement some of the bigger picture ideologies and dreams that I have for exploring and kind of learning about communities that way.
So you are working in Orange County, living in LA, commuting every day.
Yep.
And you have plans to move down here, or
I don't.
no?
I don't.
You're
no.
set.
I love LA, and for me, the reason I do that is because it's a big community and part of my life, just the same way that CTC is. And so a dream of mine is to figure out how to make all the communities in my life coexist. And this is kind of a microcosm of that. And so happy doing it and looking forward to kind of volunteering and giving back some of the time that I do have to some of those communities there.
So if there's one thing I know about you, Pete, it's that you don't like small talk.
I don't.
You are a big advocate for big talk.
I am.
Not wasting time. So let's just jump right into it. And I would love to know why exactly you picked this dream.
Yeah, I think for those of you who have watched the Dream Show and kind of understand the bit about dreaming we do here at CTC, I think it's really important for the employees. It's really important for the growth of the company. Something that Taylor, Corey, Jordan have really poured into, this idea that it's okay to have a dream that's individual and unique to you, that kind of coincides with your work. Maybe it is in your work, maybe it's outside of your work. But as you develop as a human, it's okay to have things that you want to go chase that are outside kind of the normal responsibilities that you have every day. And for me, a big part of what's important to me is relationship development. And I think relationships can take shape in a lot of different ways. You can have relationships with your family, you can have relationships with your coworkers, you can have romantic relationships, you can have friendships, you can have mentorships, all these different things. But I think at the core of human existence, what's really important is your ability to connect with other human beings. And so I've been fortunate enough to find myself with a lot of relationships that I really cherish, both people here at CTC, friends from my time at Loyola Marymount, friends from before that, childhood friends, relationships with my siblings. And it's just made a dramatic impact on my life as a human. They're there with you in the good times, the bad times, and I think there's really rich value in that. And so for me, thinking about ways that I can contribute to more relationships has been really important and kind of grow that base. And I've always enjoyed kind of the mentorships I've had in my life, and so really want to make sure that I give space and an opportunity for the development of some of those for some kids who may not have a ton of relationships, or maybe they don't have a really strong family structure or siblings or whatever it might be. So kind of giving some of the time that I do have back to some of those communities, I think is a dream that I was able to help identify with Tommy, and something I'm looking forward to doing over the next year.
So the goal that you set up was to do 3 to 4 volunteer days a month.
Yep.
At either the Boys or Girls Club or Children's Hospital
Yep.
in LA. And your goal is to basically make that like a mentorship outlet for yourself.
Totally. I think just a place to foster a consistent relationship. I think something I've realized and what's really important to developing a relationship is doing it consistently over time. And so I've kind of want to make sure that through the dream that I've identified for myself and really established, that I'm able to kind of contribute and pour into that a lot at a kind of a consistent pace, so that the relationship has further meaning, further depth, further value. And so my hope is to be able to do it consistently once a week. Versus the kind of project where it's, you know, once every year, and it's more so of a time standpoint. For me, the real driver of it is a relationship, and kind of what comes secondary to that is, you know, just doing one-off projects, but really making sure that I can help contribute my time into a place where I can help build those relationships is really, really important. So.
Okay, so that definitely makes sense then why you set up a once a week sort of timeline for yourself. Totally. As far as the amount of time that you're going to be contributing to the Children's Hospital or the Boys and Girls Club. But then tell me where the mission or the service trip specifically plays in.
Yeah.
Is that something that you plan on doing?
Something I hope to plan
multiple times?
Totally.
Or how do you plan on continuing those relationships?
I think it's a little bit bigger of a question, but I think learning about other communities is super important. There's so many different types of communities, whether it's in different regions of the world or amongst different age groups, whatever that might be. But I've always been interested in traveling and really understanding at the core of it what drives other people, what drives other communities of people, what's kind of unique to different countries, different places. And so trying to couple that with my dream of giving back and serving different communities is this idea of I want to learn about other places.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great way at the core to really understand who are the types of people that exist in other places, what do they do, what do they care about, more so than just traveling or just going out and exploring new places. I think this gives you a real relational component of figuring out and finding out about other places, similar to the way that, like, if you were to go explore someplace and you went to a restaurant, just as much as like food is unique to a culture, I think as important to that is the people. And I think this serves as an outlet to really understand who those types of people are, what they care about, and how we can, you know, build relationships in different places that I'm excited to do. Now, once a year is a lofty goal. We'll see if that really pans out. It's an expensive one, but I think once over the course of this year, and then trying to figure out how I roll that out a little bit more consistently on a larger scale is something I'm looking forward to doing. So.
Oh, I love hearing you say that. You already know this about me, but recognizing individuals' uniquenesses is so important to me. And so you even take that a step further to say the unique aspects of cultures and communities is so important to you to discover. Yeah. Do you have any idea why that's important to you? Like, can you trace back?
Well, I think CTC has done a foundational job in really stressing the importance of community. Because if you were to look here, everybody has different backgrounds, different skill sets, different interests. But similarly to the way we were talking earlier and joking about the fact that this place is called the Common Thread, I think there's some uniting purpose that everyone here has that brings us together. And I think communities do the same thing. There's a reason different people are part of different communities, whether that's your church community, whether that's your community of friends that you built through your university, whether that's your community at your pickup basketball league, whatever it might be. There's a reason that you choose to spend your time with those people that I, from a psychological standpoint, find fascinating. And I think it's the core existence of successful places versus unsuccessful places, if you will. And I think CTC has really helped illuminate that for a lot of people here. And I think TMYD specifically, for me, was kind of this guide to say, hey, communities are super important, relationships are super important. There's avenues to pour into those outside of specifically what we do on the day-to-day here at CTC. And so I think that's kind of where my mind goes when I think of those kinds of things, and something I'm super grateful for with the Dream Show and kind of all this kind of stuff. So something I hope more people can feel a part of as CTC continues to grow and more dreams get told on camera and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm super grateful for the dream show because it got us to get coffee this morning.
I know, it's
And I
awesome.
got to hear all about your dream,
It's awesome.
which was fascinating.
Totally.
He's a fascinating guy. Pete, I've been sitting in on interviews with you literally all week, and as we were coming up with interview questions, brainstorming what we wanted to find out about candidates, the thing that you contributed that stuck out to me as far as interview questions goes is you wanted to know what our candidates' favorite community was that they were a part of. So it's been interesting to hear their answers, but now CTC is off limits, obviously, but beyond CTC, what is your favorite community, if you will?
Oh, I think first and foremost, my favorite community is my family. I think when you get born into this world, you're kind of born into a family, and that's your first community. That's your first taste of community.
Yeah.
Whether that's your parents and you, whether that's a single parent and you, whether that's yourself and a bunch of siblings and the parents, whatever that community looks like for you, that's kind of the first touch point you have with the idea of relationships with other people. And so I've always been super grateful to have a really supportive family. Now we're tons of different people, and my sisters and brothers are completely different, and they're off on their own paths, which is really amazing. But I think we've all placed a big importance on making sure that everyone feels supported in that journey. And so that's always been my favorite community, and why I like becoming a part of other communities where that common purpose is still present. And this,
even if you can't necessarily identify it.
Even if you can't identify it, I think this is one of those places that has a special community, and everyone pours into it for a different reason. But I think it really started for me at family, and in going through the process with Tommy, that was where the dream came from. It was like, let's identify what's important and then build kind of a framework and a dream for how to continue pouring into what is important. So I'd encourage anyone that is doing it, whether it's through TMYD here at CTC or you're just doing it in your own life, try to find out what's important to you and then find ways to spend more time doing those things. I think something Taylor always talks about is making sure that his schedule aligns with what he wants for his life. And I think that should be true for everybody. Like whatever you want for your life is totally unique to you, and it's totally fine. But make sure that like you're spending your time doing the things you want to do. Obviously, there's always times to do things that people don't want to do, and you have to do your chores and your errands and those kinds of things. But like, if you can make sure that most of your time is spent doing what you find valuable, you just are a happier person. So I think TMYD is a great outlet to continue to pour into things that people find important to themselves, whether it's traveling, giving back, building their own agency, whatever it might be. So
time and money are both an investment. So wherever you're putting your time and your money, that's probably what's most important to you.
And time's a little bit harder. Time's a little bit harder to get back than money.
Yeah, that's true.
Money will figure itself out. Time goes away. So.
When you were going into TMYD, did you already know my number one most important value is relationships and community, or did that develop through talking with Tommy?
I think it developed through talking with Tommy, and I think it's something that everybody should, or at least from my own experience, is something you have to practice thinking about. It's hard because your career is always supposed to align with your number one passion, and like you're told a bunch of things, and people are always reading self-help books, and like there's a lot of information to process. But at the end of the day, like what you have is the ability to identify it for yourself, what it is that's valuable to you. And the same way we were talking about individuality, every person is different. So whatever that means for you, try as best as you can to figure it out. And it's always going to change, it's always going to evolve, but in the moment, if you can figure out what makes you happy, then I think trying to pour into that is the most important. And Tommy or any resource like Tommy is kind of a great way to start to identify what some of those things are. So I had no idea before I came here that was really important. It was important to me, but I couldn't sit there and identify what singular thing it was. But through some conversation and reflection and trying to identify it, I think it was super, super helpful. So I'm super appreciative for the opportunity to have that here, and would encourage everyone to find an outlet to do that in your own life, whether that's a therapist, whether that's through your yoga practice, whether that's through conversation with your best friend, whatever that looks like in your own life. I think it goes a long way. So. Right.
Now, how old are you? You have a birthday coming up.
24.
24 turning 25?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't like to talk about it. My roommate's 25. I have two roommates. One's 24, one's 25. So there's two 24-year-olds in the house.
Okay.
And we give the 25-year-old an endless hard time about being 25. So I'm trying to avoid it for as long as possible.
Yeah, no longer, Grandpa.
Yeah. So.
I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's sometimes very difficult to navigate a social pressure or even professional pressure of feeling like you have a dream or a purpose or a goal that you've identified very early on in your life. I mean, leaving high school and moving on to college, you already feel that pressure.
Totally.
And so as somebody that is 24, turning 25, and you just recently identified the next dream that you're going to go on and chase, I just want to reiterate that because I think there's probably a lot of people that are trying to navigate through these confusing waters of, I have been working in the same job for X amount of years, or I'm this old and I don't have a definitive goal or a definitive dream. And so you're never too old to dream anew.
Totally.
Not that you're old.
I think the last two things that I think we talked about earlier and that are important for this is what I was able to realize, and I hope other people can, is like dreams are never permanent. If you state a dream and 6 months from now it's not your dream or your dream changed, that's totally okay.
But you gave it your best shot while you were pursuing it.
If it's a dream to finish a book over the next month, if it's a dream to get another coffee so that you can finish your day strong, like whatever it is, there's no dream that's too small. And then also to just get away from this idea that like the first entry point into conversation has to be what do you do. I don't necessarily know if that's a real thing, because I think what CTC does a great job of is getting away from the resume, getting away from those kinds of things, and more into like who are you as a person, what drives you, why are you here, versus okay, I've had 6 years of experience in digital marketing and I've spent $50 million on Facebook, and like those things are less important to where you're headed. Those are things that happen in the past and they have importance, but trying to get away from the like identifying just as what you do and try to identify with who you are as a person, I think makes that process of understanding your dream a little bit easier. So those are just things Tommy and the people here have really helped me realize that I hope other people can realize as they go through this process as well. So.
Well, I am so thankful to have had you on this show. This is Pete, everybody. I know that you learned a lot from him today, so I'm grateful for you, man.
Grateful for this space. I hope more people come on here and share some really awesome dreams.
See you next time on The Dream Show.